They said the animals sensed something was wrong with her. They said even the wind turned away when she walked by. They said destiny had made an error the night she came into the world. But destiny had not made an error. Destiny had made a promise. Because the girl everyone rejected would one day walk into a place no one else dared enter, and return carrying something powerful enough to change not only her own life, but the fate of an entire kingdom. This is the story of the girl they called Broken. The girl who became unforgettable. If this story touches your heart, kindly subscribe, share and comment below. Tell us where you are watching from, and become part of our storytelling family. In the quiet village of Elira, where the mornings arrived gently and the evenings carried the scent of wood smoke and earth, children were born into roles long before they learned to speak. Some were born to lead, some were born to serve, and some, like Elira, were born into silence. Her home stood at the far edge of the village, where the land sloped toward the river and the soil remained soft year-round. It was a small clay house with a thatched roof, built by hands that loved deeply and endured much. Elira had been born on a night when the rain fell without warning. Her mother never lived to see the sunrise. The women who attended the birth exchanged uneasy glances. They did not say their thoughts aloud, but their silence carried meaning sharper than words. They looked at the baby's curved spine. They looked at her fragile arm that did not move as freely as the other. They looked at her leg that rested at an unnatural angle. And then they looked away. Only one person did not look away. Her father. His name was Joran. He was a quiet man with strong hands and gentle eyes. He did not see a mistake. He did not see shame. He saw his daughter. He wrapped her carefully in cloth and held her close to his chest. "She is mine," he said simply. From that moment on, Elira became the center of his world. He fed her. He carried her. He sang to her beneath the night sky when her small body trembled with discomfort. And when she was old enough to understand words, he gave her one that belonged only to her. Starlight, he would call her. Not because she shone brightly in the eyes of others, but because she shone brightly in his. As Elira grew, it became clear that her body would not grow like the others. She walked slowly. Each step required effort. Each movement demanded patience. The other children ran freely through open fields while she watched from the edges, her silver-gray eyes following their laughter like someone watching a world she was never invited to enter. Children can be kind, but children can also be cruel without understanding why. They gave her names. Bent Girl, Slow Walker, Spirit Touch. They did not mean to hurt her, but they did. Elira learned early that pain did not always leave marks others could see. Still she endured. Because every evening, her father would sit beside her, and he would remind her of something no one else ever did. "You are not less," he would say quietly. "You are simply different." Those words became her shelter, her protection against a world that did not know how to see her. Years passed like drifting leaves. Elira grew from a small child into a quiet young girl. She learned to cook. She learned to clean. She learned to survive within the limits her body gave her. And through it all, her father remained beside her. Until the day he didn't. It happened without warning. The sun had risen normally that morning. The air had been calm. The world had given no sign that anything would change. Joran had gone to the fields as he always did. Elira had watched him walk away, leaning slightly on the wooden staff he carried. He turned once and smiled at her. It was the last time she would ever see that smile. By afternoon, the men of the village carried him back. His body was still. His eyes were closed. His staff was gone. Elira did not cry immediately. She simply stood there staring, waiting for him to open his eyes, waiting for him to speak. Waiting for the impossible. But the impossible never came. The world moved forward, even when hers stopped. At his burial, the villagers spoke kind words. They praised his strength. They praised his character. They praised his kindness. But when the ceremony ended, they returned to their lives. All except one. Her aunt. Her name was Celine. She approached Elira with careful steps and a carefully arranged expression. "You will come with us," Selene said softly. She rested a hand on Elira's shoulder. "You are family." Elira wanted to believe her. She wanted to believe that she was not alone. So she nodded. And she followed her. She did not know then that she was not walking toward safety. She was walking toward her next trial. Selene's home stood closer to the center of the village. It was larger, stronger, filled with life. Selene had a daughter named Maris. Maris was everything Elira was not. Straight back, graceful, admired. Where Elira moved carefully, Maris moved effortlessly. Where Elira stayed silent, Maris filled every space with confidence. At first, Selene treated Elira with gentleness. She gave her food. She gave her a place to sleep. She spoke softly. But kindness born from obligation rarely lasts. Within weeks, the softness disappeared. And Elira learned a new truth. Sometimes the most painful wounds are not caused by strangers, but by those who promise to protect you. Before sunrise each morning, Selene would call her name. "Elira, wake up." There was always work. Fetch water. Clean the yard. Wash the pots. Prepare the fire. Each task took Elira longer than it would have taken anyone else. Her body did not allow speed. But Selene did not allow excuses. Maris watched everything. Sometimes she said nothing. Sometimes she smiled. And sometimes, she laughed. Elira endured it all. Because she had nowhere else to go. And because her father had taught her something stronger than bitterness. He had taught her endurance. But endurance alone would not protect her forever. Because far beyond the village, far beyond the hills, far beyond everything she had ever known, something was already waiting. Something that would change her life forever. And it would arrive sooner than anyone expected. The first sign that something was wrong did not come with noise. Came with silence. In the great palace of Avonmore, where golden banners swayed in the wind and polished floors reflected the light of 100 lanterns, silence was something rare. But now, it filled the royal chambers like an unwelcome guest. Prince Kaelan lay motionless upon his bed. He was only 21, young, strong, beloved by the people, and fading. No one could explain how it began. First it was only fatigue. He slept longer than usual. He spoke less. He smiled less. Then came the weakness. His steps slowed. His hands trembled. His once bright eyes grew distant, as if he were looking at something no one else could see. The royal healers tried everything. They brought herbs from the southern marshes. They burned rare roots gathered from distant mountains. They whispered ancient prayers passed down through generations. Nothing worked. Each morning he woke weaker than before. Each night, the king watched his only son and felt something he had never allowed himself to feel. Fear. King Theron was not a man easily shaken. He had ruled for 30 years. He had led his people through famine and storm. He had never doubted his strength. Till now. Because strength could not fight what it did not understand. One evening, as the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, the oldest healer in the kingdom entered the royal chamber. Her name was Mélisse. Her hair was white. Her back was bent with age. But her eyes were sharp with knowledge. She approached the king slowly. "There is one possibility," she said quietly. The king turned toward her immediately. "Tell me." She hesitated. Not because she doubted the truth, but because she understood its cost. "There is a flower," she said. "A flower that blooms only once every 25 years. The king's expression hardened. He knew of legends. He did not trust them. But he had no choice. "Where?" Mélisse met his eyes. "In the forest of whispers." The name alone carried weight. Every child knew the stories. The forest was not merely a place. It was a boundary, a place where the known world ended and something older began. Few who entered returned unchanged. Many did not return at all. The king's voice dropped. "And this flower?" Melis spoke carefully. It is called the celestial bloom. Pause. It has the power to restore what is fading. Oh, fragile and dangerous. It entered the room like light through cracked stone. Then we will retrieve it, the king said. Melis shook her head slowly. It cannot be taken by force. Why? Because the forest does not yield to strength. She looked toward the prince. It yields only to truth. The king did not fully understand. But he did not need to. He had only one goal: to save his son. The next morning, the royal drums sounded across the entire kingdom. Their deep rhythm rolled over villages, hills, and rivers. It reached places that had never known the king's voice, including the village of Elira. Elira heard the drums from where she knelt beside the water basin. Pause. The sound vibrated through her chest. It was not celebration. It was a summons. Villagers gathered quickly in the central square. Merchants abandoned their stalls. Farmers left their tools behind. Children climbed onto stones to see above the crowd. At the center stood a royal herald. His white cloak marked him as the king's messenger. He raised his voice. Hear this decree of King Theron. The crowd fell silent. Prince Kaelin, heir to the throne, has fallen under a mysterious illness. A murmur spread through the people. Fear, concern, disbelief. The healers have failed. The words struck harder. But there is hope. The herald lifted his hand. Deep within the forest of whispers grows the celestial bloom. He paused. Whoever retrieves this flower and returns it to the palace shall be granted the greatest honor. He looked across the crowd. They shall become the prince's chosen. The square erupted. Excitement, ambition, dreams. Young women clutched their friends. Mothers whispered eagerly. This was more than an opportunity. It was destiny. At Celine's house, Maris could barely contain her excitement. This is it, she said, pacing. This is my chance. Celine watched her with pride. Yes, she said softly. You were born for this. They spoke of dresses, of jewels, of crowns. They spoke as if the outcome were already certain. Elira listened quietly from the doorway, her hands still damp from washing, her heart unsettled, not by dreams of royalty, but by the thought of someone suffering. She stepped forward. Her voice was hesitant. Aunt. Celine turned. Elira swallowed. May I try? The reaction was immediate. Maris laughed. Not softly, not kindly, but sharply. You. Celine's expression darkened. Elira, she said coldly. This is not a game. I know. You cannot even walk without struggle. Elira lowered her gaze. But I can still try. Maris stepped closer. Do you truly believe the forest would accept you? Her words carried no compassion, only mockery. Celine's voice hardened further. You will remain here. He turned away. This conversation is finished. Elira did not argue. She had learned long ago that arguing changed nothing. But something inside her had already begun to shift. Because while others saw impossibility, she saw necessity. Someone needed help. And no one else had succeeded. That night, she lay awake on her thin bedding. She stared at the ceiling. She listened to the quiet breathing of the house. She remembered her father's voice. You are stronger than you know. She did not know if it was true. But she knew one thing. If she did nothing, the prince would die. And she would spend the rest of her life wondering if she could have changed it. Outside, the moon rose slowly into the sky. Its light touched the earth gently, as if waiting, as if watching, as if calling her forward. And deep within the forest of whispers, something ancient stirred. Something that had been waiting for her. The night Elira chose to leave, the village slept without knowing it was losing someone who would one day redefine its story. The air was cool, and the moon hung low, casting pale silver across the earth. Elira sat up slowly on her thin mat. Her body protested as it always did. Pain had been her companion for so long that she no longer fought it. She acknowledged it the way one acknowledged rain, unwelcome but inevitable. She listened. Celine's breathing came steadily from the other room. Maris shifted once, then fell still again. No one was watching. No one would stop her. Carefully, Elira reached beneath her bedding and pulled out the only thing her father had left behind, a faded cloak, worn soft by years of use. She pressed it briefly to her face. It still carried the faint scent of earth and smoke. The safety. She wrapped it around herself. Then she stood. Her uneven leg trembled beneath her weight, but she steadied herself against the wall. This was not the first time her body had resisted her. It would not be the last. She stepped outside. The village looked different at night. Quieter. Softer. The sharp edges of rejection and judgment disappeared in darkness. For a moment she simply stood there, breathing, remembering. Then she began to walk. Each step carried her farther from the only life she had ever known. Not toward certainty, but toward purpose. The path to the forest of whispers lay beyond the river, past the last farms, where the land grew wild and untamed. Few traveled there willingly. Fewer returned. Elira reached the river just as clouds drifted across the moon. The water reflected fragments of light. She paused at its edge. This was the boundary. Behind her was everything familiar. Ahead was everything unknown. Her heart beat harder. Fear whispered its warnings. Turn back. You are not strong enough. You are not meant for this. She closed her eyes and remembered her father's voice. You are not broken. She stepped forward. The cold water wrapped around her feet. She crossed slowly, carefully, each movement deliberate. When she reached the other side, she did not look back. The forest rose before her like a wall of shadow. Its trees stood tall and ancient, their branches twisting toward the sky like silent watchers. No wind moved among them. No insects sang. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Elira stood at its edge. She felt small, fragile, insignificant, but she also felt something else. Determination. She took her first step inside. The darkness deepened immediately. The air grew cooler, heavier. Each sound she made seemed louder than it should have been. Her uneven footsteps echoed softly against the earth. She walked slowly, carefully. Minutes passed, or perhaps hours. Time behaved differently here. Then she heard it. A whisper. A faint. Elira. She froze. Her heart pounded. She turned. No one stood behind her. The trees remained still. She told herself it was only her imagination. She continued walking. Again the whisper came. Elira. This time it came from ahead. Her breath caught. How do you know my name? She whispered. The forest did not answer. But it did not need to. 'Cause she understood. This place saw more than the surface. It saw truth. Branches shifted above her. Shadows stretched along the ground. Something unseen moved beside her. Not threatening. Not welcoming. Observing. Testing. Her leg dragged across rough roots. Pain flared sharply. She stumbled. Her hands hit the ground. For a moment she stayed there, breathing hard. Her body begged her to stop, to rest, to surrender. She almost did. Almost. Then she remembered why she had come. Someone is dying. She pushed herself up and continued forward. The forest grew denser, the darkness thicker, until suddenly it opened. She stepped into a clearing bathed in silver light. At its center stood a still pool of water. Its surface reflected the moon perfectly, untouched by ripple or disturbance. And beside it stood a figure. Woman. She was neither young nor old. Her hair shimmered like woven light. Her eyes held something vast and unknowable. She watched Elira with quiet intensity. You have come far, the woman said. Her voice sounded like wind moving through leaves. Elira swallowed. Yes. Many came before you. The woman stepped closer. They turned back. Elira said nothing. The woman circled her slowly. You are afraid. Yes, Elira admitted. The woman smiled faintly. Yet you came anyway. Elira met her gaze. Yes. The woman stopped in front of her. Why? Elira did not hesitate. Because someone needs help. The woman studied her carefully. Not her twisted spine. Not her weakened arm. Not her uneven leg. But her truth. Do you seek reward? The woman asked. No. Power. No. Love. Elira hesitated. Then shook her head. I seek to save a life. Silence filled the clearing. Then the woman lifted her hand. The pool began to glow. From its center something emerged. Flower. Its petals shimmered with soft radiance. Its light pulsed like a heartbeat. The celestial bloom. Elira stared at it. It was real. She had found it. But the woman spoke again. You may take it, she said. Hope surged. Then the woman continued. But first you must face truth. The air changed. The light shifted. And suddenly, Elira was no longer looking at the pool. She was looking at herself. Not as she was, but as she could be. Her spine was straight. Her limbs were strong. Her body moved without pain. She stood tall, whole, beautiful. Tears filled her eyes. She had never seen herself this way. Never imagined it could be possible. This can be yours, the woman said gently. Elira's heart raced. Take this form, the woman continued. And the world will accept you. Elira's hands trembled. To walk without pain. To exist without rejection. To be seen. To belong. It was everything she had never had. Everything she had ever wanted. Only one thing must be given in return, the woman said. Elira's voice was barely audible. What? The woman's gaze deepened. Your compassion. Elira froze. You will no longer feel the pain of others, the woman explained. You will no longer carry their burdens. Her perfect reflection smiled confidently. Unaffected. Untouched. Elira stared at it. At the life she could have. At the freedom she could claim. And then, she thought of her father. She thought of his voice. His kindness. His love. She thought of the prince. Alone. Fading. She closed her eyes. And made her choice. When she opened them again, her voice was steady. No. The woman did not react. Elira continued. If I must lose my heart to gain everything else, then it is not worth gaining. Silence filled the clearing. Then slowly, the woman smiled. Not with amusement, but with approval. You understand, she said. She stepped aside. The flower is yours. Elira walked forward. Each step felt lighter. She reached the pool. She knelt. Her hand trembled as she touched the glowing stem. The moment her fingers closed around it, warmth flowed through her. Not changing her, but strengthening her. She stood, holding the celestial bloom. Its light reflected in her silver-gray eyes. The woman spoke one final time. You came seeking to save another, she said. But you have already saved yourself. Elira did not fully understand. Not yet, but she would. Very soon. The celestial bloom was warm in Elira's hands. Not hot, not burning, but alive. Its gentle pulse traveled through her fingers, up her arm and into her chest, as if it recognized her. As if it had chosen her as much as she had chosen it. For a moment she simply stood there, breathing, listening, feeling. The silver-haired woman watched her quietly. You must leave before dawn, she said. Elira looked up. Why? Because light reveals truth, the woman replied. And truth is not always gentle. Elira did not fully understand, but she nodded. She turned toward the dark path she had come from. Then she hesitated. Will I see you again? She asked. The woman's expression softened, but she did not answer directly. I am always where I am needed, she said. It was not a yes, but it was not a no. Elira accepted this. She wrapped the bloom carefully in her father's cloak, protecting its fragile light, and began her journey back. The forest felt different now. It was no longer watching her. It was guiding her. The whispers did not test her. They parted for her. Her steps, though still uneven, felt steadier, stronger. But strength did not erase distance. And distance did not erase time. By the time Elira reached the river, the first faint hints of dawn were beginning to touch the sky. She crossed quickly, her breath shallow with urgency. The prince did not have days. He did not have hours. He had moments. She could feel it. Somehow she knew. When she reached the village, something was wrong. Even before she saw the palace, she heard it. Voices. Many voices. Low. Heavy. Grieving. Her chest tightened. Villagers gathered near the palace gates, their faces pale, their eyes hollow. Some were crying. Some stood in stunned silence. Elira's heart pounded violently. Whoa. He pushed forward. Whoa. She ignored the stares, the whispers, the looks of confusion and recognition. Whoa. She reached the palace steps. A palace guard stepped forward, blocking her path. His eyes narrowed. You cannot enter. I have the cure, she said. Her voice shook, but she did not lower it. I can save him. The guard hesitated. He looked at her twisted frame, at her worn cloak, at her desperate eyes. He did not see a savior. He saw a mistake. The prince is dying, Elira said. Please. Something in her voice broke through his doubt. He stepped aside. Be quick, he said. The palace was colder than she remembered. Not in temperature, in feeling. Servants moved quietly, their heads bowed. No one spoke. No one stopped her. It was as if hope had already left. She followed the familiar corridors to the prince's chamber. The door was open. Inside, Celine stood beside the bed. Her shoulders trembled. Maris stood nearby, silent and rigid. The prince lay between them. Ill. Too still. Celine looked up when Elira entered. Shock flashed across her face. Elira! Elira stepped forward, unwrapping the bloom. Its light filled the room. Maris gasped. Celine's hand flew to her mouth. You found it, she whispered. Elira nodded. There is still time. Celine stepped aside. Her eyes filled with tears. Then save him. Elira approached the bed. The prince's face was pale. His breathing was shallow, fragile, like a flame moments from extinction. Elira knelt beside him. Her hands trembled. Not with doubt, with responsibility. She remembered the woman's words. You must face truth. She gently placed the celestial bloom against his chest. For a moment, nothing happened. Fear surged through her. Had she come too late? Had she failed? Then the bloom began to glow brighter. Its light spread across his body. Until his breathing hitched. Once. He inhaled deeply. Color returned to his face. Warmth returned to his skin. His eyes fluttered open. Celine sobbed. Maris stepped forward in stunned silence. The prince looked around, confused. Alive. He was alive. Elira exhaled, her body trembling with relief. She had done it. She had saved him. But then, the light changed. The bloom's glow began to dim. Elira frowned. Something was wrong. The warmth that had filled her began to fade. Cold replaced it. Her fingers trembled. Her breath grew shallow. The bloom fell from her hands. It had turned gray. Lifeless. Celine stared. What is happening? Elira tried to answer. But her voice failed. Her legs weakened. Her body swayed. Maris caught her before she fell. Elira! Her vision blurred. Her strength drained rapidly. She understood. The bloom did not create life. Transferred it. The prince lived. Because it had taken from her. Celine's voice shook. No, this wasn't the price. Elira smiled faintly. It was not fear she felt. Not regret. She looked at the prince. Alive. Breathing. That was enough. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. You're not broken. Her lips moved. Barely a whisper. I was never broken. Her eyes closed. and her body went still. The palace was quiet after that night. Too quiet. No one spoke of what had happened in the prince's chamber. Some thought Elira had faltered. Others whispered that she had fainted from exhaustion. Only a few noticed the faint silver-blue glow still lingering in her eyes, a glow that no one could take away. When the prince awoke fully, he saw her first. Not the palace, not the servants, not the golden bed or the silk curtains, but Elira. Twisted, tired, trembling, but alive. He rose slowly, still weak, and took her hand. His touch was gentle, careful, as if afraid to break her. "You saved me," he whispered. "No one else could have." Elira's lips curved into a small smile. She shook her head. "I only did what had to be done," she said. Her voice was soft but firm. Anyone would have tried if they could. But he did not release her hand. "No, not anyone. Only you." Word of her bravery spread quickly. Whispers of the crooked girl who had faced the forest of whispers, braved its shadows, and returned with the celestial bloom reached every corner of the kingdom. First, many could not believe it. How could the girl everyone mocked and rejected perform a feat no one else dared? How could she hold courage stronger than the proudest warrior or the most beautiful maiden? Ngozi and Zara were brought before the king. Their lies exposed. Their greed revealed. "You turned your own kin into a slave," the king declared. "You claimed credit for a feat that was never yours. Your punishment is severe." Zara trembled, and Ngozi's face twisted in fury and disbelief. But Elira stepped forward, her silver-blue eyes unwavering. "Do not punish them with cruelty," she said. "Let them live. Let them learn from the lives they ruined." The king studied her. Then he nodded. "So be it. They will serve the kingdom and learn humility." The kingdom watched as Elira was finally recognized, not for what she lacked, but for what she carried inside: courage, compassion, and a heart that refused corruption. The prince, now fully healed, remained at her side. He had seen her when no one else did. Her twisted body, her struggles, her pain. He saw the strength behind it all. "I want you to be with me," he said quietly. "Not because of a crown, not because of beauty, but because of your heart. Because you see the world as it is, yet still choose to do good." Elira shook her head gently, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I am not worthy of a prince," she whispered. "You are worthy," he insisted. "And now I will stand by you, not because the world tells me to, but because my heart knows the truth." Together, they placed the celestial bloom in the palace garden. Its petals glowed softly, a reminder of courage and selflessness, of a girl who had risked everything to save another. Over time, Elira's body began to heal. The magic of the bloom strengthened her, yes, but it could not touch the courage and compassion she had always possessed. When she walked through the palace halls, she walked straight, but her heart remembered the pain, the rejection, the long years of labor and scorn. And because of that, she ruled not with fear, but with wisdom and kindness. The villagers came to see her. They bowed, but not out of intimidation. They bowed because they finally understood. The girl they called cursed was the one who had saved a life, a kingdom, and in a way, them all. Years passed. Elira and the prince built a kingdom that was known far and wide for justice and mercy. They opened schools, fed the hungry, healed the sick, and protected those who had no voice. And whenever anyone asked her what mattered most in life, she would smile softly and say, "True worth is not in beauty, not in strength, not in wealth. It is in the courage to do what is right, even when the world tells you otherwise. Even when the world believes you are broken." The celestial bloom continued to glow in the palace garden, a testament to bravery, selflessness, and the truth that sometimes the smallest and most overlooked hearts carry the greatest power. Elira became queen, not because she was perfect, but because she was whole in the only way that truly mattered, in her heart. And the kingdom flourished, not under the rule of fear or pride, but under the light of courage and compassion. The crooked girl who had been mocked, who had been hidden, who had been underestimated, became a legend. Not for her appearance, but for her heart. And that heart never broke.